Even small cults have a serious cost in the world economy. To the victim, their families, employers, and friends. A quote by Keith Henson, an evolutionary psychologist. If you couldn't tell, this speech is to inform you about cults in today's society. After having done extensive research, I believe I am qualified to inform you about this topic. Today we're going to discuss what defines a cult brainwashing techniques, and cults in today's contemporary society. To start off, we must define what a cult is. According to Bruce Campbell, author of Typology of Cults published by Oxford University, a cult is defined as a non-traditional religious group based off of the idea that there is something inherently divine within you. And there are two types of cults. The first being a mystical cult. That has two subtypes as well. Normal mysticism, which occurs in most religions, is pretty harmless, and technical mysticism, which is significantly more cultish. And it is based off the idea that there's something inherently within the individual that grants salvation. And it makes it a point to separate itself from conventional religion, and yet always stems from it. The second cult is instrumental or manipulative cults. According to German theologian Ernst Troeltsch, it is basically the idea of techniques that are instrumental to making the world and person's experience and life better. They use these techniques to make people do anything and everything that they want, which is also why it's called manipulative cult. And it relies on a charismatic leader to make these people do these things. And it has many similarities to technical mysticism. Even though there are different types of cults, they share more similarities than differences. Bringing me to my next point. Religion in and of itself is not a cult. Cults have certain traits and techniques that they use to brainwash their members. According to Orrit B. Epstein, a psychotherapist who works with and helps people who have experienced brainwashing, one of such techniques is torture-based mind control. In her book, Ritual Abuse and Mind Control, written in 2018, Epstein states that they can either be acute torture or conditioning. Acute torture is shown in pain, drugs, electroshock, or terror, whereas conditioning is a lot more subtle. It can manifest in ultimatums, illusions, spiritual threats, or isolation. The reason that they use this technique they use torture-based mind control is because regardless of the technique that you use, it effectively weakens the person's mental state and reduces their sense of self to near nothing, making them significantly easier to control and less likely to resist. Another technique used after the destruction of self is rebirth and confession. Like I said, many cults stem from religions, and according to O'Doherty, an experimental psychologist and priest, cult leaders use this spiritual experience to control others in any way that they wish. It goes along with instrumental cultism because it takes advantage of their weakened mental state and uses that to mold them in whatever way they see fit, guaranteeing loyalty. And this causes the victim to cling to this person thinking that they are their only source of salvation. Hearing some of these techniques, you might be thinking, who would fall for this? But it happens a lot more than you would think. According to Rodney Stark in his article Cults in America, cults typically tend to appear in times of reform and change. And there's been no greater time of change and reform than in contemporary society. So I'm going to discuss some cults that have appeared during this time period. The Manson family is one of the most sickening and famous cults that I've ever heard of. Started by Charles Manson in around 1967 when he met a man named Gary Hinman and gained a group of followers. 1 year later, his followers killed Gary Hinman just because Manson demanded it. The family grew to be about 100 people and continued this series of murders until Manson was arrested. This falls under instrumental cult because Manson repeatedly, according to Gary Allen Fine, journalist of the Folklore Institute, drugged his members and left them for days without eating. and employed many other brainwashing techniques. Another cult is the People's Temple, which is another extremist cult that identifies more with technical mysticism and had a very tragic ending. Founded in 1954 by Jim Jones in Indiana, it was originally called the Community United Church. And according to Oliver Everhard, in an exposition published in 2009 by San Diego State University, it began mostly as a Christian-related movement, but then quickly turned into a communist society, which led to the mass suicide of 900 people known as the Jamestown Massacre. In an interview with Don Beck, one of the few surviving members, he stated that the people weren't inherently evil, but it was the charismatic leader Jim Jones who took advantage of their deep trust for him and caused them to kill themselves and forced them to do so. By definition, they are a technical mystic cult. They broke out from Christianity, denounced it, and used its teachings to control every aspect of their members' lives, resulting in the death of almost 1,000 people. According to Everhard, this laid the foundation for many more extremist cults to appear in society. I could go on and on about cults, but instead I'll go to my conclusion. To summarize, there are two types of cults, mystical and instrumental. And though they are very similar to religion, they are significantly more manipulative and separate themselves from religion. And the cults have been pervasive even in today's society. I've discussed what defines a cult, the techniques that they use, and cults in today's society. As I said in the beginning, cults have a serious cost in society. The Manson family affected people's lives, their families' lives, and even our lives, and is the reason why we lock our doors at night. Thank you.